Number 10. Beast. Beast was actually chosen to replace another member of the Illuminati. He was given hidden telepathic memories, which would awaken upon the death of the man he was meant to be replacing. Hank McCoy is known for his genius intellect and is also quite strong and quite dexterous, often referred to as the bouncing blue beast. He specializes in genetics, electronics, and of course biochemistry. In fact, he became blue as a result of him ingesting a serum that he had created which altered his biochemistry, and after not managing to take the antidote for said serum in time, making his secondary mutation permanent. The man and mutant that the Beast would replace on the team was Professor X, who placed hidden telepathic prompts in Hank's mind. When Professor X did die, Beast was then compelled to enter his secret room, where the Mind Stone and evidence of his participation in the Illuminati were hidden, just as the rest of the Illuminati team arrived, who were assembling the Infinity Gauntlet at the time. What perfect timing. He's like, I feel like I should go into this room and maybe join the Illuminati. Oh, there they are. Oh, hey guys. Number 9. Professor X. One of the most gifted telepaths in the Marvel Universe, it should not be surprising that Professor Charles Xavier has been asked to, and at times agreed to, join up with the Illuminati. Also, although we don't talk about it as much, Charles is also super smart, and not just because he's a telepath or anything like that. He's well educated and seems to have a penchant for inventing as well. Back in the early days of the X-Men series, he's pretty much constantly creating devices on the fly to help combat evil foes, and builds and rebuilds Cerebro when it is destroyed. Pretty wild stuff, really. And then of course there's the stuff that we generally associate him with when it comes to his intellect, such as genetics and mutation. He also is an adept strategist and often comes up with ways to outsmart even the most unstoppable of villains.
Coming in at number 8, we have Henry McCoy, aka Beast. Considered one of the foremost experts on mutants, a position that is helped by his own incredibly blue and fuzzy mutation, Henry McCoy could be considered the brains of the operation known as the X-Men. While perfectly capable of defending himself and becoming a vicious fighter whenever he needs to, Beast prefers to live life as peacefully as possible, much preferring to focus on his science and mutant politics rather than engage in direct combat. And as mutant kind continues to forge its own future with the island of Krakoa, Beast's genius will be much needed in the mutant-filled years to come.
Number 7. Black Panther. When T'Challa was initially approached to join the Illuminati, he said no. He thought it was a bad idea to try and put together a group of geniuses who thought they knew better than everyone else. And I gotta say, I kind of agree with T'Challa. However, when facing the threat of the incursions, it was then that he actually saw the value in the big brain, all-powerful group, as a team of heroes who could basically use their combined brainpower, muscles, influence, and experience to try and save the Earth and possibly other alternate Earths as well. Black Panther is known for his genius-level intellect as well as his skills in combat. He is highly experienced and trained, and also has the powers of Black Panther as a result of exposure to the heart-shaped herb. Not only that, but Black Panther also works hard every day to improve his already impressive abilities and skills, constantly challenging himself to do more and be even better. He also typically comes with like the entire force of Wakanda, since he's usually leading Wakanda, so there's also that. And he's a really good leader, so yeah. Number 6. Mr. Fantastic. When it comes to intelligence, Reed Richards is believed to be one of the most brilliant minds around in the Marvel Universe. It is for this reason that he was approached to join the Illuminati group. He was also part of the precursor event that basically helped to inspire the creation of this team, when he and some of the other most powerful heroes from Earth decided to confront the King of Skrullos to basically tell him to ensure that the Skrull forces leave the Earth alone. They were like, don't mess with us. Of course, this ended up resulting in him and other heroes being captured by the Skrulls for a time and experimented on before escaping. Yeah, not the best plan, it turns out. Still, despite the fact that not all plans that he's been a part of have gone smoothly, the fact remains that Reed is still an influential figure who is also a super genius. Plus, he's got stretching powers. No one ever wants to acknowledge how useful those can be because, I mean, they are kind of ridiculous, but there are many times that Reed has actually used his power set to save the day, and at times, the world. Number 5. Captain Britain. Brian Braddock, you could could say, hails from the more mystical realm of Marvel. Initially known as Captain Britain, Brian now goes by the name of Captain Avalon, as Betsy has taken up and kept his mantle even after dying and kind of being resurrected while wielding it. But I believe during the time he was on the Illuminati team, I think we still called him Captain Britain, so hence why I'm using that name here. Brian might not be the first person you think of when you think of genius level intellect, but he ended up being imbued with all the knowledge and secrets of the Starlight Citadel when he was sent back from Otherworld to Earth 616, just as the incursions were becoming a major problem. As such, he ended up being invited onto the Illuminati team to help them figure out how to combat the seeming unstoppable and growing threat of the incursions. It should also be noted that Brian Braddock is actually super smart, even without the valuable Starlight Citadel knowledge. He possesses a genius level intellect and is a scientist who specializes in engineering and physics. I feel like we don't talk about that a lot, but that is definitely a thing Brian has. He is a scientist. Number 4. Namor. Namor is Marvel's first superhero and mutant who, despite his historical significance, often falls by the wayside. I mean, we don't even have Namor in the MCU yet. What's up with that? Where is he? Still, the King of Atlantis has proven to be a powerful ally and very valuable asset to the Illuminati team. In fact, when Black Panther couldn't bring himself to follow through on a plan to blow up an alternate Earth to prevent the destruction of Earth 616 in the face of the incursions, it was Namor who pressed that fated detonation button, willing to do whatever it took to try and keep the Earth safe. Granted, his intense determination and somewhat lack of morals is also what makes Namor a sometimes villain and often more anti-hero than straight up hero, which really just means he's often more interesting and complex than your standard superhero fare. Namor himself is not necessarily a super genius like most others on the Illuminati team, but he is quite skilled when it comes to tactics, modifying Atlantean tech, and of course, diplomacy, as so many rulers are. They're like, I know how to be diplomatic. Although I feel like Namor maybe isn't the best at being diplomatic compared to some other people on this list.
Coming in at number 3, we have OBADAIAH STANE, aka the Ironmonger in the very first Iron Man film. It's become a bit of a meme at this point that many of the supervillains of the MCU are dark reflections of the same powers and personalities as the heroes they're opposing, and the Ironmonger is the origin of that trope in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Completely guilt-free about selling weapons to all sides, Stane is a ruthless businessman willing to do anything to maintain control of Stark Industries, and shows just how awful Tony's new technology could be used in the wrong hands, and what a monster he could become if he gave up on his deepest morals. Although, honestly, the fact that his idea of upgrading the Iron Man suit is just to make the original one bigger, maybe he's not quite as smart as Tony after all.
Number 2. Doctor Strange. Known for being the master of mysticism, when it comes to the magical side of Marvel, there is almost no one who can rival the Sorcerer Supreme. While he hasn't always held the title of Sorcerer Supreme, Dr. Stephen Strange has proven his mettle as a magic user. Even when he is without magic, he still manages to be a force to be reckoned with, instead sometimes relying on magical artifacts to give him that needed power boost. Stephen is resourceful and knowledgeable, and he's got magic, which definitely makes him one of the most powerful heroes on the Illuminati team, and within the Marvel Universe. I just think magic is like a whole area of the superhero realm that is hard to beat when it comes to power, as it can kind of allow you to do, well, pretty much anything, whatever you need it to allow you to do, as long as you know how to use that magic and you have that knowledge. It's kind of like having all the powers in one. Like I said though, as long as you have the magical skills and the magical knowledge. Although, Strange definitely does have those things. Number 1. Hulk/Bruce Banner. Despite the Illuminati actually kind of being the ones behind shooting off the Hulk into space, where he would then end up landing and living on Sakaar, finding happiness there for a brief time before it was all basically destroyed, Bruce Banner too also has been a member of the Illuminati. I know it seems a little surprising. Of course, this was more a Bruce Banner thing than a Hulk thing. At the time, Banner was more in control when it came to his changes into the Hulk as well. Banner ends up recruited by the Illuminati in the face of the incursions, like so many members before and after him. Desperate to stop their world and countless others from being destroyed, Bruce is recruited for his brilliant intellect. While not physically strong compared to the Hulk, mentally Banner is one of the strongest around. And if we're talking physically, then the Hulk has that covered. Bruce Banner has been said to be the most brilliant nuclear scientist on Earth before, and has also been known to dabble in other areas of science with his super genius intellect, including biology, engineering, and architecture. He's also believed to really be the only expert scientist in the very, very narrow field of radiation-based mutation. Well, I say narrow field, but maybe in comics, not such a narrow field.
Coming in at number 10, we have the Iron Goblin. Coming from an alternate universe where the Spider Island event wound up being permanent, Tony Stark was initially transformed into a human-spider hybrid under the control of the villainous Spider Queen. During a battle with the Resistance, however, Tony was sprayed with the same Goblin formula that had corrupted the mind of Norman Osborn, transforming Tony Stark into the Iron Goblin, with a mechanical new costume to match. And while this version of Tony would eventually decide to sacrifice himself in a last moment of humanity before his Goblin insanity fully took over, the combination of Iron Man and Green Goblin tech is still a pretty terrifying combo that Spider-Man should hope never reappears. Coming in at number 9, we have the corrupted Iron Man from the controversial 90s event, The Crossing. When a variant of the time-traveling villain Kang the Conqueror, known as Immortus, began using the neural link in the Iron Man suit to secretly begin altering Tony Stark's brainwaves, Iron Man became a sleeper agent within the Avengers and eventually attacked his companions outright after secretly manipulating them for years. While eventually defeated by a time-traveling 19-year-old version of himself, and then retconned into Tony going back to his usual status quo in the Marvel Universe, this controversial storyline shows what would happen if Iron Man truly turned out to be a traitor.
Number 8. Black Bolt. While the Inhumans don't often get a ton of love when it comes to their popularity amidst the other superhero factions, Black Bolt is one hero who tends to still stand out and stand strong when it comes to their ranks. And you cannot deny that even if he's not the most well-known superhero, he's still one of the most powerful. As an Inhuman, his power, which he received after being exposed to the Terrigen Mist, is in his voice. He can basically emit like a strong concussive blast by just uttering a whisper. Because of this, Black Bolt typically doesn't speak normally, but instead communicates through physicality and telepathically, often through one of his wives, his main wife really, the Inhuman Medusa. Medusa in fact was also a member of the Illuminati, though sadly she wasn't quite powerful enough to make the cut for our list this time around. But still, I'm glad I got to mention her, because I was like, there's not even any ladies on this list. Although traditionally the Illuminati in the Marvel world is pretty male dominant. That's okay. Their wives show up at one point to be like, what are you guys doing? What is this? This is a mess. Let's not do this. Wives/partners.
Coming in at number 7, we have the Steel Corpse. Hailing from Earth 11326, this version of Iron Man was pretty similar to our own, but with two key differences. He's permanently fused with his suit, and he absolutely hates mutants. Fighting alongside other villainous Avengers to wipe out this universe's X-Men, this Iron Man's natural body died long ago after being melded with his machinery, and thus he jokingly calls himself the Steel Corpse as a way of coping with his morbid situation. This version of Iron Man had complete mastery of his weaponry, as they were literally a part of his body, and only a last-second change of heart before sacrificing himself stops this Tony Stark from being one of the absolute worst. Coming in at number 6, we have the infamous Iron Patriot, aka Norman Osborn. Best known as being the alter ego of Spider-Man's nemesis, the Green Goblin, Norman Osborn has long been one of the biggest threats in the Marvel Universe, manipulating events from afar as the CEO of Oscorp. Following the invasion of Earth by the Skrull army, Norman found himself suddenly in the public eye and with goodwill after being the one to personally defeat the Skrull Queen. Norman would use this influence to lead the Dark Avengers as the Iron Patriot, a twisted version of Iron Man combined with Captain America's patriotism that tricked the public into trusting Norman, and showing that Tony Stark is definitely not the worst billionaire in the Marvel world. Coming in at number 5, we have the Iron Maniac. On the dark alternate world of Earth 5012, most of the superheroes of this reality are dead after an unknown fatal error made by Reed Richards. A vengeful and violent Tony Stark makes it his life's mission to get revenge on Reed and modifies his armor to resemble that of Reed's worst enemy, Dr. Doom. This insane version of Iron Man killed the Human Torch and was eventually banished to the main Marvel universe, where he had to be subdued by the combined efforts of Spider-Man, Captain America, and Black Widow, who found it a bit unnerving to be fighting such a far-gone version of one of their closest allies. This Tony was just as resourceful as the real one, however, as he'd even escape custody by building a new suit from the remains of a life model decoy. Pretty resourceful for an insane Iron Man. Coming in at number 4, we have the superior Iron Man. During an event known as Axis, many Marvel heroes and villains had their morality completely inverted, with good guys becoming bad, bad guys becoming good, and so on and so forth. One of the few changes that wasn't reversed by the end of the event, however, was the morality of Iron Man, who in his evil form still possessed all of the intelligence and dark aspects of Tony's personality, and managed to build a shield for himself to prevent being turned into a hero again. Infecting much of the planet with a new version of the Extremis virus, and using artificially intelligent drones to assert his dominance, this version of Tony was only finally cured by the Marvel Universe's collapse into Battleworld resetting his morals, meaning that this was a villain that the rest of the Avengers didn't even manage to properly defeat. Coming in at number 3, we have Lunella Lafayette, aka Moon Girl. A young inhuman superhero with the ability to swap minds with the gigantic devil dinosaur whenever she feels a particularly strong emotion, Lunella is also one of the smartest human beings in the entire Marvel universe, and if it wasn't for the top spot on this list, would definitely be the youngest. Capable of solving a puzzle box that even its creator, Bruce Banner, was unable to, Lunella is already an accomplished computer hacker, engineer, and inventor at the age of 9, programming algorithms that even briefly confused Tony Stark. And with all of this mental power at such a young age, who knows just how smart Lunella Lafayette will become in the future. Coming in at number 2, we have the evil Emperor Stark. Hailing from the destroyed world of Earth 42777, this version of Iron Man was perhaps the cruelest the multiverse had ever seen, as he manipulated Magneto and the Brotherhood of Mutants into declaring war on humanity, then used the resulting anti-mutant backlash to secure power as the world's only superhero. Holding entire countries hostage with natural disasters and even spreading plagues among his own citizens, this version of Tony declared himself Emperor Stark, taking the cloak of Dr. Doom as a final trophy. This was Iron Man at his most evil, and he was an incredibly powerful threat when encountered by the multiverse-traveling Exiles, only eventually defeated by his own universe's last superhero survivor, Sue Storm. A tragic end for a tragic villain. And finally, coming in at our top spot, we have Zombie Iron Man. When Earth 2149 was first hit by the zombie plague that's since been highlighted in multiple Marvel spin-off series, this version of Iron Man attempted to use teleportation technology to escape to a different universe with Nick Fury. However, a zombified Fantastic Four arrived too quickly for this plan, and Tony was bitten, becoming a living corpse inside his metal armor and developing a bloodlust and pure hunger for human flesh. Still surviving even after having his legs blasted off by the Silver Surfer, the zombified Iron Man would go on to lead the rest of the undead heroes and villains in an attack against Galactus and gain this universe's power cosmic, meaning he could now pursue more flesh throughout the entire universe and bring the zombie plague to the rest of the doomed cosmos. Coming in at number 10, we've got a bit of an honorable mention with the iconic Thanos. That's right, while he's best known as being a powerful cosmic warlord, Thanos has occasionally fought on the side of good during the Marvel Universe's long history, and contrary to appearances, he actually might be one of the smarter beings in the entire galaxy. Considered a genius even by the standards of the incredibly advanced Eternals, Thanos' intellect is the only reason he's been able to come up with so many universe-spanning plans over the years, and has led to his ability to teleport, fly, and technically even led to the infamous THANOS copter. And while he more often fights the Avengers than not, he's still had to be consulted a few times by them when it comes to cosmic threats that outweigh even the power of Thanos. Coming in at number 9, we have Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man. Peter may be best known for spinning webs of any size and catching thieves just like flies, but one of his greatest superpowers might just be his mind. Even before being bitten by a radioactive spider, Peter Parker was a high school genius, and is the mastermind behind all of his own technology such as spider bots, spider trackers, and even the web fluid and canisters that allow him to swing around New York. While he might often be overlooked by the rest of the genius level Avengers, we all know that Spider-Man is an incredibly brilliant hero for the people of Manhattan. Coming in at number 8, we have Iron Thor. During the event that saw God Emperor Doom in control of a Marvel universe converted into a new Battleworld, Doom maintained his complete control over the many realms of Battleworld with a police force army known as the Thor Corps. One of the most powerful of Doom's personal army was the being known as Iron Thor, wearing a combination of the Iron Man armor and Thor's iconic helmet, and investigating any potential rebellions to his master Doom's rule. Even capable of wielding Mjolnir, this super powerful character still managed to be murdered by the hero Warrior Woman as an example of rebellion against Emperor Doom. He might have had a short life, but man, I really love that Iron Thor design. Coming in at number 7, we have Amadeus Cho. More well known as the totally awesome Hulk, Amadeus was actually incredibly noteworthy in the Marvel Universe years before he ever got infected with gamma radiation, as he was born with super genius intellect and his brain essentially acting like an incredible supercomputer, capable of performing multiple complex calculations at the same time without ever appearing overwhelmed. Because of the hyperspeed of his own brain, Amadeus is also incredibly fast at learning, a skill that came in handy once he was the Earth's primary Hulk for a time and had to learn how to control his new gamma form fast. Coming in at number 6, we have Hank Pym, the original Ant-Man. As one of the founding members of the Avengers due to the use of his size-changing technology known as Pym particles, Hank has long been seen publicly as one of the world's most impressive scientists. However, Hank's intellect hasn't just been used for size-changing technology, as he's also the mastermind behind the creation of the evil artificial intelligence known as Ultron. And while Ultron is one of the most terrifying villains in the Marvel Universe that the rest of the Avengers definitely wish Hank hadn't been smart enough to make, the fact that he was able to create an entirely new intelligence means that Hank is perhaps a little bit too smart for his own good. Coming in at number 5, we have Bruce Banner, aka the Incredible Hulk. Bruce Banner's scientific cred and reputation might have been tainted just a little bit by all the destruction caused by his own transformation into the Hulk, but at the end of the day, he's still an incredibly talented and genius level scientist. Knowing more about gamma radiation than nearly anyone else on the planet, given his own incredibly up-close experiences with the substance, Bruce Banner got his PhD in nuclear physics with the intent of helping as many people as possible, only working with the United States Defense Department because no one else was hiring at the time. Nevertheless, Bruce still tries to use his scientific mind to help people even to this day, even if that help is by further trying to understand the many mysteries surrounding the Incredible Hulk. Coming in at number 4, we have the one and only Tony Stark. That's right, it turns out that the man who built a high-tech suit of armor in a cave with a box of scraps is a pretty smart guy. Graduating from MIT at the age of 17, Tony is an Avenger without any actual superpowers or enhancements. He's just an incredibly smart dude in a suit of armor, and even more importantly, is capable of using that intelligence in surprising and unorthodox ways, often capable of outwitting his opponents both in the moment and with literal years of advanced planning, given Tony's passion for futurism. Tony is said to be so smart that he claims to already know how most conversations are going to go before he's even had them, meaning that if you surprise Iron Man, you might just be able to surprise anyone.
Number 3, Iron Man. I mean, at this point, thanks in large part due to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the whole world knows of the genius that is Tony Stark, aka Iron Man. Not only does his genius fuel his power, as it's how he's able to make his armor, but in the MCU, it also helped him to crack the code of time travel, which is pretty crazy. In fact, Stark was actually the one to think of the idea to create a team of powerful and brilliant super-heroic leaders of various different types of factions in an attempt to create a sort of secret superhero government, in a way, in the comics. His plan was to create a sort of ruling body that could guide others in the superhero community, using their minds together to figure out the best course of action when it came to larger looming threats and how to deal with those threats. However, this didn't entirely work out as he planned, but the team did end up uniting, agreeing at the very least that it would be a good idea to remain connected when it came to the exchange of information. And of course it did lead to them teaming up to do things, eventually.
Coming in at number 2, we have Reed Richards, aka Mr. Fantastic. The leader of the Fantastic Four and one of the very first superheroes in the Marvel Universe, Reed Richards has always been a complete genius. Heck, by the time he turned 18, he'd already earned 4 scientific degrees from multiple highly respected universities. Reed's intelligence would only become more important as the Fantastic Four grew in fame and had to deal with larger and larger threats, with the team often having to rely on Reed's inventions to help save the day or strengthen their own powers. In recent years, Reed has even helped his reality-changing son Franklin design new universes for the multiverse, and often collaborates with his own multiversal council of Reeds to solve problems too big for just his brain alone to handle. And finally, coming in at our top spot, we have the one person who can outthink Reed Richards, and it just so happens to be his daughter, Valeria Richards. Conceived by Reed and his wife Sue Storm during an adventure within the Negative Zone, this led to unexpected consequences for both the baby and her mother, with bursts of cosmic radiation endangering everyone nearby. The only one who was able to safely deliver the child wound up ironically being Victor Von Doom, the archenemy of her father, and the one that gave her the name of Valeria after his own lost love. Kind of an awkward move there, Doom. Valeria has a greatly increased intelligence due to the cosmic radiation her parents endured, and it's already claimed that she's surpassed her own father's intellect, and has to hide her true level of intelligence to prevent her from becoming a target to cosmic supervillains. And considering Valeria is this smart while still just being a kid, who knows how powerful Valeria Richards will grow up to become.